Next one is our the planets. Next one is our the planets. Idrili we have discussed majorly about definition, composition. We have discussed about measurement also. Next major one here is the classification of the planets. Classification of the planets. And planets are classified into how many types? 2 types. One is our inner planets, one is our inner planets, and this is our asteroid belt. This is our asteroid belt. It is also called as a rocky-like substances. Rocky-like substances which are present in our which are present between our Mars and our Jupiter. Mars and Jupiter, we call it as asteroid belt. Okay now, and between the sun and the asteroid belt, we call it as what? A terrestrial planet, or I can say it is also called as inner planet. It is also called as inner planet. Exactly, online, exactly. It is also called as a terrestrial planet, or I can say inner planet. Sir, why it is called as terrestrial planet? Why it is called as terrestrial planet? It has higher density. It has higher density. You common sense question here is, but the sun has higher temperature, a huge temperature. Is sun atra iddada? Why there'll be higher temperature? It should be molten state, alva. Hope you're getting. For example, the sun has higher temperature. Higher temperature sutta nearby yadadiratto, obviously the temperature should be higher. More the temperature antandre higher density irata, obviously no. It should be lesser density. Whereas nane delta opposite delta ini. It has higher density anta. How can you justify? That's a major concept here. First one, inner planets, we have 4 important planets. 4 important planets. Yadu. The first and foremost one is our Mercury. First one is our Mercury. Second one is our Venus. And the third one is our Earth. And the last one we call it as our Mars. And these 4 planets we call it as inner planets, or I can say a terrestrial planets. Inner planets or a terrestrial planets. And away from asteroid belt, we have again 4 important planets. 4 important planets. Only first and foremost one is our First and foremost one is our Jupiter. Second one yadu? Second one is our Pakana, bari bada. It is a Saturn. The third one is our Uranus, and the last one we call it as our Neptune. Last one we call it as our Neptune. After Neptune, yav belt baratta hai? After Neptune, we have the most important belt. We call it as the Kuiper belt. Kueiper. Kueiper, nothing but a Kuiper belt. Kuiper belt consists of icy materials, the dust particles, etc. It is not rocky. Whereas asteroid belts are rocky. Whereas this asteroid belts are rocky in nature. Asteroid belts are rocky in nature. Okay, now done. And this one we call it as inner planets, near to our sun. And second one, outside our asteroid belt, we call it as our outer planets or exactly, it is also called as a Jovian planets. Jovian and Jupiter-like planets. Jupiter-like planets andre. Obviously, Jupiter is yatra. It is like a gaseous state. Jupiter is in a gaseous state, not in a solid state. Exactly. Okay, next doubt illa. Yes, all clear. Next one. What is the major difference between terrestrial planet, terrestrial planet versus our Jovian, or I can say gaseous a planet. When we are going for differences, what are the major important? The major important one is our the parameters. The major important one always and always is our parameters. Always and always is our parameters. Ili first and foremost one, or I can say criteria exactly. How okay na? Ili first and foremost parameter. Nam gutirtakaden. Can I say location? Can I say first and foremost one? ನೋಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಬರಿಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲೇನು ಕಾಂಪ್ಲಿಕೇಟೆಡ್ ಏನು ಇಲ್ವೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್, ವಾಟ್ ದ ಲೊಕೇಶನ್? ಲೊಕೇಶನ್ ಏನು? ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಿಯರ್ ಟು ಅವರ್ ಸನ್. It is nearer to our sun. Exactly, Anusha, exactly. It is closed to the sun, or I can say which is formed near to our apparent star. Near to our apparent star, we call it as inner planets, or I can say terrestrial planets. Terrestrial planets. Okay, now, illi, which are found at a distant location. Which are found at the distant location. Distant andre eno? A longer. Distant is nothing but a longer location. Longer location. First and a foremost one. First and foremost one is our location. Second one is our diameter. Now, what do you mean by diameter? Okay. If this is a planet, this is a planet from the sun, or I can say from the center to our what? Enidu nange gottu radius anta. To the surface of the planet, we call it as a radius. And center inda, if I extend this opposite, and this we call it as diameter. This one, or I can say a 2r is equal to our diameter. 2r we call it as a diameter. Illi, which planets will be having higher diameter and which planets will be having lesser diameter? That is nothing but the terrestrial planets will be having a smaller diameter. The smaller diameter, whereas Jovian planets will be having what? Exactly, it is a larger diameter. Larger diameter, il bekan barkoli. Diameter is nothing but a 2r. Nothing but a 2r. The twice the radius, we call it as a diameter. Okay, now third one is our density. Third one is our density. Which planets will be having higher density? Terrestrial planets will be having higher density, and out of this, Earth has the largest or the highest density among the planets. Earth has the largest density, or more dense is the terrestrial. Exactly. That is the density, again higher density, whereas Jovian planets will be having, lesser density. Will be having lesser density. The fourth most important one here is with respect to atmosphere. Which planets will be having a thick atmosphere and which planets will be having thin atmosphere? Jovian will be having thicker atmosphere. Why? Because the influence of the solar winds are lesser. Hope you're getting. Adukoskar introduce martane. Now the solar winds will be moving from our parent star. Move ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? The atmosphere which are present around these planets will be blown off. Is that good or bad? Solar winds? Bad. Illa. Okay, it is both always. If it is a natural phenomenon, obviously it has both positives and negatives. ಈಗ ನೋಡಿ, Earth ಅಲ್ಲಿ initially we had helium and hydrogen. Was it favorable for the establishment of life? Was it favorable? Obviously no. And the present, the initial atmosphere has been blown off by the winds, solar winds. And the evolution of atmosphere took place. If I get better, Yes, it has both positives as well as negatives. It has both positives as well as negatives. Illi, the influence of solar winds will be highest. Influence of the solar winds be, you can say, highest in the inner planets. Whereas with respect to our Jovian planets, ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ? Obviously it will have a thicker atmosphere. Next, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. Now, understand this. The first and foremost one, this is I'm taking it as an Earth, or I can say inner planets. Now I have different gaseous materials like helium and hydrogen. Helium and hydrogen. This is, I can say, the initial or the traditional, you can say, gaseous materials. Now, due to the presence of hydrogen and helium, will the Earth be on solid shape or will it be molten? Initially, I'm talking about. Initially, that is nothing but a 4.6 or 4.7 a billion years ago. Due to the presence of helium and hydrogen and different gaseous materials, the Earth was not, I can say, solid. The Earth was, I can say, semi-solid, I can say. Semi-solid, semi-solid, because it is too much heat, and this heat is not leading to formation of condensation. If there is no condensation, obviously there is no life. There is no stability. Movement just ಆಗ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ. Okay, this is my sun. Now the solar winds will blow off this the atmosphere. Traditional atmosphere. A traditional atmosphere ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಈಗ? It was completely higher temperature. ಈಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? Obviously it will cool and the density will increase. Whereas with respect to our outer atmosphere or against outer planets, because of lesser impact of the solar winds, the atmosphere is not being blown off. Atmosphere blown off agilla andre no. Obviously the planets will be in molten state or against in semi-gaseous state. Hope you're getting highly important one. Highly important one. The influence of the solar winds. Influence of solar winds will be higher. Yes or no? The influence of solar winds will be higher. Whereas it will be lesser, I can say. Influence of solar winds is lesser. With the higher influence, obviously, the atmosphere will be thin. Atmosphere will be thin. Whereas atmosphere it is thicker atmosphere. It is nothing but the thicker atmosphere. The atmosphere will be a thick atmosphere. Whereas either it will be thin or no atmosphere itself. A thin or you can say no atmosphere. If you take an example of Mercury, atmosphere illa. Because huge solar winds. Done? Okay now. Next one. Can I link this density kuda? It influence against solar winds. Higher density, obviously, lesser influence, obviously, it is in molten or I can say semi-gaseous state. Semi-gaseous state. Clear? This is majorly about the differences. ಈಗ ಸರ್ ಇನ್ನೂ ಬೇಕಾ? ಬೇಜಾನ್ ಬರಿಬಹುದು. What about gravity? Higher the density, higher the gravity. Higher the temperature also. Parameters, the first and foremost one, terrestrial planets and or I can say inner planets or I can say inner planets or I can say Jovian planets. Followed by we will be majorly talking about first one is our location. Location ಹೆಂಗೆ? It is near to our parent star. Parent star ಅಂದ್ರೆ sun. Whereas here it is located at a distinct location. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ it is also called as outer planets. ಇದು inner planets. First one. Second one with respect to diameter, which has higher diameter. The Jovian planet has a larger diameter. Okay, next question. Can I say which planet has higher radius? Obviously Jovian. Whereas it is smaller, I can say diameter or smaller radius. Third one with respect to influence of solvents. Influence of solvents are higher influence due to formation of thinner or no atmosphere, followed by the higher density as well as higher gravity also. Whereas lesser influence of solvents, obviously the thicker atmosphere followed by a lesser density.